Good evening. Tonight we'll do a dramatic analysis of The Men in Black, a comedy classic. So weird to say it's a classic, and it doesn't seem like it was that long. All right. Let me share my screen. There it is. Wow, not easy. And so you all should see the overview window in Dramatica at this point. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I have put just the IMDb log line, which is pretty generic. It says a police officer joins a secret organization that polices and monitors extraterrestrial interactions on Earth. I think, I mean, especially since we don't want to say, we're not identifying what the goal is quite yet at this point. It's generic enough. It covers most everything. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Or anybody have a problem?
Yes.
Okay. And I identified, top 5 characters. K, Laurel. That's the medical. Zed and Edgar. Edgar is the bug, or that's the body the bug is in. Those are just sort of the major characters. The main character. This is the character through whose eyes the audience experiences the story. So, any nominations?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And it's either K or J. And
oh, you're right.
I think it's debatable. You're right. It's either Tommy Lee Jones or Will Smith, but I think it's debatable which one is the main character and which one is the influence character. So we can have that debate.
I think it's K only. We just get a slight glimpse of personal stuff going on with K and nobody else. So.
I do think
we're the ones who don't. Our experience is we're going into this not knowing anything about the system for the most part. And
I always thought it was Jay, Will Smith's character, that was the main character, because we're learning.
Jay, Will Smith?
Yeah, I thought because we're learning along with him, like because we don't know anything about anything either.
Right.
So that's why I thought it was maybe him.
Will Smith. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I got the names because they're kind of. So and he's replacing his older partner, right? No, he's replacing himself. But there's JK. K, and that is
I would agree that there isn't a lot of main character or like personal baggage and stuff, but I do think that like the camera even follows Will Smith more. Like even like when they're upside down in the tunnel, we're upside down too. We're not right side up. Just like there's subtle things like that made me think that we're more Jay.
Right, and we're surprised when he shoots the guy's head off, which then grows back. He's surprised, how powerful the little tiny, or we're surprised how powerful the little tiny is. He's surprised when Kay has the bug eat him. I mean, we don't know what the plan is or what he's thinking. He's, we're definitely with Jay in the sense that we're inexperienced, right? We don't have the familiarity with all the galactic creatures that exist on. So that'd be a reason I would say it tends toward Jay, the main character.
Yeah.
Which would make who the influence character?
It'd have to be K.
Yeah.
because obviously that's the most prominent relationship. Yeah, it's the two of them. So,
And what is the nature of the relationship?
Say like mentors.
Mentor student or teacher student?
Yeah, something like that.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, he's there to show him the ropes and.
Chris, are you frozen or am I frozen? Jim, you're muted
No,
right now.
I'm not frozen. Am I frozen? I don't think
I think Chris had been cracking up. Chris,
Oh, you say Chris, not Chris.
Chris,
Sorry.
not Prish. Chris, are you
I'm here.
okay? You froze up there for a few seconds.
Oh, sorry. So would that be considered a senior moment? No, just kidding.
That's what it looked like.
Well, if your Wi-Fi is really old, yeah.
All right.
You
So
can also be the minority leader in the Senate.
Yeah, it's a Mitch McConnell moment. Yeah.
well, I didn't have. I don't know. Was I just sort of staring, looking at the screen at the camera? All right. So this is the one that I think will be probably an interesting one. So the main character, who we were saying is Will Smith, is he a change character or it's that best character, and why? How do we know?
I vote changed.
Okay, and how do we know?
My reasoning would be, I believe, well, I don't want to get ahead, but I think J represents feeling against logic with K. And I think in the end, he's finally able to see a situation that he's just like, wait, he's in the bug, he's been eaten. He's like, but he's finally able to be like, oh, appearances aren't everything, and the way I feel about this situation isn't necessarily all there is to what's going on. Excuse me.
Okay, so how does that compare? How is he at the beginning? Where you give an example where we see how that compares to something where he behaves the opposite at the beginning.
Or I think right off the bat, he's chasing down this alien, and he's feeling, I think, insulted or provoked that this alien even has the audacity to run from him. He's like, do you see this? Do you know what this means? NYPD, like, this is my he's all up in his field, like, this means I'm gonna bust you and catch you. He's so passionate, and he's very involved in what he's doing. And then throughout the film, we see him with when he's first going to the armory, and he gets the noisy cricket, and of course he's judging it based on appearances, and so that, how does that make him feel? He's like, well, I've been slighted, they've given me a little Nerf gun toy, and he gets the Series 4 deatomizer or whatever, and so I think he has an emotional interpretation of the world around him. And then finally at the end, I feel like he can see a situation for what it is and trust K.
But trusting K, that's not the issue, right? I mean, if you're saying if feeling is his thing, then his approach, how is his approach different when he's trying to stop the alien from climbing up the saucer with the
girl?
No, the girl already fell.
You're talking about with the galaxy thing, yeah.
Yeah, to get away. What is he doing? He's like, oh, I'll just step on, and he's trying to get a big feeling out of the monster, right? I mean, he's throwing things. It's not that he's not illogical at the beginning. In fact, remember he says, "Well, I thought it was the girl. You know, I shot her because she's out in this neighborhood and she's fine, but she's reading, you know, Einstein and its theory of relativity. So I thought she definitely was something up with her." So I mean, I'm not sure that's quite. I'm not sure that's the right argument. I'm not saying it's necessarily not changed. I just don't think that that's necessarily a good example of.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that scene.
Well, yeah, because that's. I mean, those are. You've got to look and see how he is over the course of the story, and it could be one where he's, you know, gradually changing, or one where he, you know, there's a moment of change. The question I think I have is, well, does anybody else have any opinions? I don't need to talk all this up. For or against, or, you know, for change.
Okay, well, yeah, I gotta admit, when I tried to think of a story form, I got stuck on this first question. Just right off, because it's like, well, there's this and there's that.
Think of it. Wait, hold on a second.
Okay.
Don't think of it in terms of the main character. Think of it as who is the changed character and who's the steadfast character.
But here's
and then we can figure it out.
Now we see Tommy Lee Jones, who is Kay. He starts, you know, he starts yearning to reconnect with his ex-wife, all right, and to, you know, get rid of his memory. Okay, so that would appear to be
at that point. What point in the story do we see that?
Pretty late, but
yeah, that's a really important point.
Right, but okay, yeah. So we do see that transition in his approach and everything, but my problem with that is that you know, change in his point of view that was gonna happen anyway. That change in him was not directly influenced by the Will Smith character. There was nothing in Will Smith, you know, there was no kind of thing. So, oh, because you came into my life, now I've changed my point of view, and now I want to go, you know, reconnect with my ex-wife and go back to a normal life. There was nothing like that, and so that's why I have, you know, that's why I have a hard time calling, you know, Will Smith steadfast and Tommy Lee Jones change, because, you know, the steadfast character is supposed to, you know, initiate that change, and that was going to happen anyway. Okay.
How do you know that?
Because there was no statement to the effect of, or expression of, oh, hey, I learned something from you, so I'm going to change my point of view and quit this job, you know. So that's where I have an issue. That's where I have the problem.
But look at where he is after he's outed with Men in Black. How is Tommy Lee Jones? Where is he? The same dry old guy that he's been throughout the entire movie up to that point?
Yeah, well, what we see is the magazine, or the tabloid cover, where he's smiling.
He's smiling
Mm-hmm.
and holding on to his wife.
Right.
He's living a normal person's life and he's happy. At no point during the movie before that does he ever look happy. Right? I mean,
okay.
That's a pretty significant adjustment. Now, granted, this is a comedy, so we're getting really, you know, but not a whole lot of data there, as was said. It's just not a lot of main character, not a lot of influence character, not a lot of this. I'd say a little more in relationship, because it is about, you know, this mentor-mentee thing. So
it's about the contrast between the two. It's just the fun part. The fun part is to seeing the contrast.
But you see that you know, the kid is training up. He is learning the ropes. So by the time of the end, he's a little just sort of like matter of fact about that they're covered with, bug guts, and he just sort of picks up the galaxy that has, an actual galaxy in it that's going to, they don't do something about it, the world's going to be destroyed, and hands it calmly over to Tommy Lee Jones. As opposed to, yes, he's not freaking out, but that's kind of what the job needs. So it's more like, he's still a smart ass, and he still pretty much does things the way he wants to do them, but he's just, he's compressed a little bit. But I think he's more or less wants to get the bad guys. And Tommy Lee Jones wants, by that point, wants out completely.
I mean, if we were to call Will Smith the change character, he pretty much changes. You'd have to call, pinpoint his change in the middle of the movie, and that doesn't quite work. So
no, but you'd have to figure out what he's changing, because I can't tell you what he's changing.
Yeah.
What worldview has he adopted differently? He is somebody who gets pissed off when somebody is trying to get away, do something illegal, whether it's a low level, what he thinks is a low level thief, or an alien that's about to destroy the world. He just gets pissed off and acts accordingly. That does not appear to be really, and that's something that's him, whether he's a cop for the NYPD or he's a cop for MIB, right? But when he's acting, but when Kay is, he's all business, and he's also the school of hard knocks. He lets people make their own mistakes. He'll teach someone, better put on your seatbelt. I mean, by the third time, which is when he was upside down, it was the third. He didn't even ask him to put on the seatbelt, or I think I'm not even sure if he mentioned it in that shot. When they get into the car that time, it's like, I'm not going to mention it this time. He knows better, and then then it goes upside down, and we have the fun with Jay scrambling on the roof of the car, trying to which if he had put on his seatbelt, you see right next to him, he would have been just fine. So I think that also you do see the demeanor of Kay. He's getting a little more only a little bit more emotional. That doesn't seem to be quite it, but it's like he's absolutely not ready to leave until after he's sort of saved the world. And then it's like, I am in a place and I've got a replacement. I'm not going to get, pushed back. I mean, you probably just quit at any time. They probably all can, but I'm not going to get any pushback. But I always also have someplace to go. So it's rather than being a work man, living for work, he's living for his own life.
Yeah. So
I think the intent is that our main character is supposed to be a steadfast character. I
agree with that. The intent. I think I don't know how strong an argument this is, but I feel Kay's climactic moment is getting eaten by the bug, okay, and I feel like at least there was some intent to say this is the kind of thing that Jay would do. He and this is tied to do or beer question, but I feel like at least the author's intent is to say that Jay is the guy who jumps into the action and just jumps into it. Kay is more about, and I'm jumping ahead to the next question, I know, but Kay is more about his presence, and so when he gives himself up the bug, he's just jumping into the action. So I believe that's intended to be his arc.
Right. I think you're right about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems to be it. Which brings us to the main character approach, do or beer. So this would be for Jay for Will Smith. And you've just made the argument that he's a doer. Can we get some examples of him as a doer?
I think the entire opening scene of him chasing down
Yeah.
the alien is a pretty doer thing. I mean, like, he goes above and beyond, like, oh, I'm going to jump up onto a bus. Oh, I'm going to jump off of a thing. I mean, like, probably more than most cops would be willing to, you know?
Right. Let's get a couple other examples. In
One that
different places.
stood out to me was when they're taking the written test. Everyone's squirming and trying to,
Right.
find a position to comfortably take the test. He goes and gets the table. He's the only
Exactly.
one that does it.
Yeah, that's an excellent.
That's
Because that
a great
is
one.
also a main character moment.
Right.
I think also when Tommy Lee Jones shoots the head off of Tony Shalhoub, Will Smith just immediately draws his gun on Tommy Lee, and because that's his instinct. He acts.
Yeah.
He just acts just like that.
Okay. Yeah, those are excellent examples. All right. So this is going slow.
I have another one to add. Just
perfect.
because it kind of shows the obstacle character too. The scene after the morgue where Will Smith chases the Edgar, but then Tommy Lee Jones' character goes to get the car. I thought that kind of showed Will Smith being the doer.
Oh yeah.
Running after, while as the obstacle character goes to get the car.
Right. He was just like, we can catch him in the car really fast. To it. Okay, you want to run after him? Fine. Do that. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so problem solving style. This again is for for Jay and Will Smith's character. So does he approach problems linearly, looking for cause and effect? Or does he look to be more holistic, looking to see how things are related and understanding when things are out of balance, how to bring them in balance or how to rechange the balance?
See, I'm not like 100% sold on this, but I almost wonder if it could be holistic, at least in some of the sense of, like, with because it feels like their entire conflict is over the neuralizers. Like, I was noticing, like, almost all of their scenes where they're disagreeing with each other come down to that, and I feel like in that sense it feels a little bit more cause and effect on the Tommy Lee Jones side of, like, okay, we just replace another memory, but he seems to be like, no, let's, I felt more like, oh, it's about like a relationship, or it felt like a little bit more like that. So I don't know if that's really strong enough, but that was my one of my thoughts.
I think in those instances they're trying to differentiate between the someone who's sort of really cold and been in the job for a long time and just does what's necessary, is businesslike, versus the young punk who really is full of I'm going to do the right thing, the sort of the hero mentality, and wants to do the best. I think that's sort of I think that's what that's illustrating, less because there's no problem there. You see, there's really
that's true.
It's addressing. Whereas, here's one where I think a holistic would have worked better, but where it doesn't work for him is that Laurel's trying to tell him that the bug is under the table, and he's just hearing and watching exactly what she's doing and thinking, what does that mean by what's going to happen? Why is she saying that? Oh, she's trying to flirt with me because the things that you're saying, whereas if he was thinking of it, he was taking it literally, but looking at it linearly, as opposed to if he had thought about the relationship, it would have been like, why is this woman I don't know seeming agitated, and she's an ME, and I'm asking these questions, she's completely blowing me off, but it looked like he was missing it completely because he was trying to be almost too literal. And I think that, you know, linear also tends to be a lot more literal than holistic, but that's not an exact equivalence. But also, he shoots him in the head. He's trying to kill him, or he's killed him. Obviously, this guy is a bad guy. You know, that's a cause effect. And then he basically, because he's so linear, and then he starts to find out that all these linear cause and effects are not really right. And Kay has this whole explanation of these events in history where you think it's this way, but it's really not, because there's this whole other world that you're not familiar with that changes the factors. You know, like even looking at the newspaper headlines, oh, they're, you know, as being like they're represented, they're being presented as reality, but of course they're not reality. But that's because he's not thinking about, well, collectively, what could they all be? Why are they all there? Anybody have some other thoughts about one way or the other? Other examples? Oh, another one is, it's small, it must be less powerful than the big one. That's a very, I mean, that's a.
And the galaxy is on Orion's belt. It must be the one in the sky.
Right, right. You know, and it's nice is that, you know, he made this leap, but he only makes it when he sees a dog barking at a cat, and he sees the cat and makes the connection to the other cat. It's like, you know, you has to literally have the breadcrumbs have to lead to one another. If there's a gap, can't make that logical gap. So I think, yeah, I think it definitely seems to be a linear thinker more than holistic. Not that he can't do holistic thinking. All right, story driver. Do actions drive decisions, or do decisions drive actions? This one should be easy. Anybody?
I mean, it feels very action to me, but
okay. So what would be an inciting action? What would be a closing action? And what would be an action in the middle that seems to change the course of the story?
I don't know exactly where this would fall, but like the Egger bug plane or ship crash, you know, killing the different people to steal the galaxy, trying to escape, all felt very action.
All right, so we have the bug has landed, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what kind of decisions are made after that are a direct relationship to that? Think of it. Think of the overall story, the big picture, not with Will, and you know, not with Will Smith, and not with J and K. Think of everybody in the story.
Well, you see the okay, so the guy who owned the cat, he was what, an ambassador or something, or he was like the king or some royalty of one alien empire. And then he meets with a Carol Stroiken character in the cafe. And I guess there's some kind of negotiation going on. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but he was
coming there to tell him that basically there's an assassin.
Okay. Okay. Right, because I think the next action point is when Edgar, the Edgar bug kills the cat guy.
Kills them.
Yeah,
right.
The cat kills both of them. Yeah. But here's the thing: the considerations happen when the MIB organization realizes that there's like activity, that people are moving.
Well, I think it's more, we see it as people have decided they're going someplace else.
Right.
And we also have the big the people who whose galaxy has been, who have the galaxy, whose galaxy it is, their big warship has decided we're going to wipe you out if you don't actually do something about this. Right? Because before that they weren't, but then when their diplomat gets killed, it's like, okay, we're not pussyfooting around anymore. You know, we are giving you notice that we need it back before X amount of time. I mean, you also have obviously the from the pre-story, the fact that Will Smith engages with the alien, and that's one of the things that gets him ID'd to join. You know, that Kay says, "Come and you know, come over here tomorrow morning." You know, so there's one decision that wouldn't have happened without that action. But the big one that starts the story is when they have the crash landing. Ultimately, it's, you know, they get the galaxy back, and
the Earth is not destroyed.
Right. But they have the galaxy, so then the decision not to destroy the Earth is what follows. I mean, those are really, really big things, big moments. I mean, it sure does feel like it. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of deliberation going on. You know, there is, but just they don't really emphasize it much at all.
Right, and I think the final act is initiated when Edgar gets his hand on the galaxy thing. So when that happens, that's when we move into the climax.
Right, when he grabs,
he gets
Laurel
possession of the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, limit, time lock or option lock. Remember, this is a limit, so this is what's going to bring about the climax. It isn't the climax, but it's what overall it's going to limit the story. So if it's a time lock, it's one thing. It's an option lock, it's another.
Well, they do introduce a time lock, but it's introduced pretty late.
Right.
So I don't know if that really. I don't know how early a time lock needs to be introduced before it should be take, because a lot of like movies will introduce that, you know, like the third act, you know, just to add some more tension. So I kind of think
exactly that's what they're doing. They're adding tension, but it's not a limit.
Yeah,
so that's the difference. The limit is something that essentially sets the boundaries of the sort of the size of the story, and it's got to be this big so that the audience, as they're following, they know we're getting closer and closer and closer to that limit, and it's either going to be running out of time or running out of options or space. There's a deadline thrown in at the end, but it comes kind of it's very arbitrary. You mean, like they said, we've got 100 galactic days. Oh, okay, so there's a time lock. What is that? 1 hour. It's like, okay, so even that's a squishy, not really serious lock. That would not be a time lock on the story. Doesn't mean the story is not a time lock, but that definitely would not be it.
It seems to me that just in terms of the overall story meta conflict, the options are, where do we find the galaxy? Where do we look? I mean, in that sense, Edgar is, even though he's the antagonist, he's kind of the protagonist of the story goal, which is to, you know, get that thingy. And he looks here and he looks there and he looks there and he grabs the girl.
I'd say he's the antagonist. Come on.
Well, yeah, I know.
The goal isn't for him to get it. The goal is to keep him from taking it.
Right. So,
from taking it first.
But also it's, you know, but in terms of the good guys, the protagonists, it's there's something weird going on. And so where do we, you know, we go to the pawn shop with the Tony Shalhoub character. We need to get information from him. We need to go get the information from the dog at the newspaper stand or whatever, you know, that thing was. You know, where do we go to get the information we need to address weirdness that's happening. So that's
Right,
that's what the options are from. Yeah.
Right, and it has a lot to do with where is it, what is it, and how, and how do we find it? I mean, there's a bunch of different where it could possibly be, but also what it is.
Mhm.
Originally the first one is that it's where it's supposed to be until the murder of and then they're trying to find it. We can tell where it is because we know it's on the cat, because we know the cat's name, and they have to then figure out what is Orion, then where is Orion, and then we have to get Orion. So yes, and
whatever
so
happened to the
we're
cat?
ahead of them on that.
Whatever happened to the cat? Did he just stay in the morgue? I mean, is he living there now?
I guess he's
we never.
he wouldn't be necessarily living there. There was a huge hole in the wall. Didn't he go out the wall or window or something?
Yeah, he just kind of dropped out.
So the cat could definitely have gone out wherever he needed to. He just fell off out of the story. But of course, that was only 1 hour before the end of the movie. So it was only that much time.
Yeah.
Okay, outcome, success or failure. And how do we know?
And I say success since the world didn't blow up or the universe didn't end, as far as we know.
Well, that wasn't the goal. The goal was
true.
to get the universe, to save the universe, right?
Yeah.
And that's was saved. So that's what it was success. And that's why that little time lock at the end that they threw in, really, it was an afterthought. Oh yeah, they need to let them know so they don't blow us up. That didn't cause the climax. You see, it's that's how you know it wasn't tied to it. But success, I think everybody okay with that? I think that sounds good. Yeah. All right, and judgment, good or bad?
Yeah, I'd say good.
And how do we know?
Because they play the Men in Black theme song, and it's a happy theme song.
Okay, that's how they want us to know emotionally. How do we know from what's in the story?
He gets the girl.
Right, and
and Tommy Lee Jones is happy as far as we know.
Right. So it's everybody.
They're both happy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yes. So that works nicely. All right. So I'm going to go over to the. Why is this performing so slowly? This is really, something is going on my computer. I'm not trying to back up or something, right? Oh, okay. That's weird. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the story engine. Oh, we're in the story engine, sorry. Let's go to the theme browser. And here we are. Pop up to the top. Now we want to align the classes or the domains with the through lines, and to begin the process of drilling down to find where the problem is. So we have a situation, activity, fixed attitude, and manipulation. I know the main characters is a doer, so he's going to either be in the situation or activity category. Anybody want to take a stab?
Main character. Oh, sorry. Main character. Situation. So well, this would be my guess, but it feels like he's a bit of a fish out of water in his. He's kind of a hot-headed, streetwise, irreverent cop that ends up in this essentially like the DMV, but they work with aliens, and they're all kind of stiffs personality-wise.
All right, and that would put That would be J, and K would be in a fixed attitude. How would we see that?
With K, I feel like he has so much perspective, and he's doing his best to pass on wisdom as he goes. And like you mentioned before, he'll say a couple times, but then the third time he's just like, okay, if you forgot to put your seatbelt on, then that's on you. So he's very I feel like he's quick to assert his point of view. He's like, oh no, Elvis is not dead. He just went home. Like very, very quick to clarify on ideas and beliefs.
Hey, what about that would put the overall story in either activity or psychology or manipulation? Any thoughts as to which of those where the overall story would be and the relationship through line would be?
I would say the OS is an activity, fighting aliens and saving the world and car chases and everything else that they get into. I also kind of thought the relationship story fits pretty well with the thinking, because it seemed like I don't think there's a lot in there, but like that seemed to be where kind of like that there's something off about the world. We both kind of have that sense. That kind of felt like that could be in manipulation or in psychology.
Well, and even, I mean, the way the tests are, the way that he sort of set him up for the tests and chose him was very manipulative,
And when you,
yeah,
I was going to say, when you look at the concerns underneath, that really lines up because, for instance,
or which through line?
Well, all of them. You look at K under fixed attitude, two signposts really stick out, and that's innermost desires and memories, especially toward the end, because obviously his innermost desires are creeping up, and he's he wants to act on them, and then he wants to wipe out his memories. He wants to take the neuralizer and wipe out his entire memory of that MIB experience. There's certainly a lot of contemplation, impulsive responses we can talk about. But when you look at the relationship through line, changing one's nature, obviously, J has to become just like K, right? And playing a role, totally they're playing roles. Conceiving an idea is part of the relationship, is K getting J to wrap his head around all this new information. You got to get it. That's a big one. You got to get this. And then certainly developing a plan. It's going through all the steps of dressing him and giving him weapons and so I think that group really fits. And for the main character, his future is kind of the main thing that's at stake. You talk about the present moment. It's like you're giving up your identity, and so yeah, you are now have ceased to exist. I mean, in a way, they've wiped out his past, and certainly how things are changing or progress, through through this new endeavor, is kind of a signpost for him. So all of that, I mean, and then obviously overall story, obtaining, learning, doing. We see a lot of doing, especially at the headquarters, and understanding are all big signposts. So anyway.
So do we have everybody okay with this, or do we have an alternative layout? Jim, you've been really quiet. This is a good time to voice a support or oppose.
You're muted, Jim.
I'm letting everybody else have a chance.
Oh, of course. No, I just wanted to.
I would say, I would say objective story, an activity, and main character situation.
Right. Okay. I mean, for once, I think this is a pretty. I think that you identified it first right off the bat, and it's a pretty straightforward story. You know, it doesn't try to mess around with, you know, the genre stuff, the big things, which is great. It just makes everything else a lot easier plot wise, you know, when we get to the next level. Okay, excellent. So I will say that this is our main character, and this is our overall story. Wow. Excellent. All right, so now where do we want to start? We want to go into the overall story or the main character? What we're trying to do is we're trying to identify the concerns, and there are 4 sets. When you pick one in one domain, you pick it basically for all 4 domains that based on their position. So we've got the past, understanding, memory, and developing a plan as one set of concerns. These are the one in the overall story would be understanding as a story goal, or I'll just start there, or doing as a story goal with impulsive responses playing a role in how things are changing, gathering information or learning as the story goal with contemplation, conceiving an idea, and present being the other 3 concerns, or obtaining with as the overall story goal with the innermost desires, changing one's nature, and the future. So does one set of those work better than another, or can we rule out a set of them or 2? Or rule in a set of them or 2? Does anybody have a strong feeling about any particular concern as it is within a domain?
I was kind of thinking it fit more in the top right. I could be wrong, but it kind of felt like a lot of the conflict was more around how we're doing the things rather than the end of the world. Like, yes, there was the end of the world kind of stuff is thrown in there, but even Tommy Lee Jones has like a line. It's like, yeah, there's always somebody trying to do this, and this is just kind of run of the mill. So it kind of felt like this is more procedural in a sense.
Okay.
So that's why I was kind of thinking more doing rather than like something like obtaining. But that was just.
Oh, okay, well, let's talk that through, because that sounds fine. That sounds good. And you gave some nice examples there. So how about Tommy Lee Jones' character, impulsive responses? If you're going to look at Tommy Lee Jones and think of impulsive responses, what would be your first thought?
And I don't know if this is exactly right, but because I don't know if it would be impulsive responses of Tommy Lee Jones, but it could look like that from Jay's point of view, like the shooting the guy's head off, you know, or doing.
Think of how Tommy Lee Jones' behavior.
Yeah.
In that, how would you describe it?
Yeah.
And pretty much all the way through the movie.
Yeah, I have a hard time with thinking of that.
He's extremely well conditioned.
I mean, so impulsive responses are, you know, let's say a big noise goes off. An impulsive response is essentially your reaction, you know, your knee-jerk reaction. And the one thing that's probably most noticeable about Tommy Lee Jones is that he's pretty lackadaisical about almost anything. Nothing really seems to rile him. He's pretty much calm under every circumstance. So whereas other people, I mean, well, Will Smith is clearly not does not behave that same way. He's, you know, reflexes are, you know, super high tuned, as opposed to what looks like Tommy Lee Jones is just sort of like, did anything get through? You know? And I'd say that, you know, we normally think of things as being positives. I don't mean like our high level, but I'd say this would be on the other time really tuned down, and that's the thing that really makes him, you know, probably the thing that defines him the most And if you think about his personal life, which we don't see much of, that's pretty much out of alignment with where he wants to be, which is in a loving relationship with his ex-girlfriend or wife or whatever she was. And being completely cold fish is really not that's not a compatible place. So you can see how it also is the thing that, because he doesn't give greater or lesser emphasis on things, if it's really important, he delivers it the same way as if it's not terribly important. So when he says, put on your seatbelt, it just sounds like a casual comment, not put on their seatbelt or you're going to die. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. But he's just like, so that in terms of an effect that it might have on that calm, matter-of-fact delivery has a direct influence on how Jay, how he's going in his training and his being ready to be viable in a high tension or high energy event. Because Jay, on the other hand, is, as you said, he'll run and jump and climb and do every single thing, when if he thought about it a moment and took it a little more calmly, he might have just gotten in the car and found him, followed him a lot faster. So it's I think that could be possible. I mean, that is right out of, those are examples that are in the movie that are specifically related to Kay. So how would we see our main character in situation? I know you covered some of this, but we're looking at, in this case, how things are changing. How is that a concern for Jay?
I think I struggle with this one because it felt like there's not a lot there, or maybe there is, but I'm just not seeing it. But
Could it be fact that when he always gets the latest fact on what something is and then he adjusts to it?
It could be, but how is that shown at a concern level in terms of progress for Jay's personal progress?
Well,
how things are changing for Jay himself.
Well, doesn't he seem incompetent until he gets the fact and then adjusts to this new level of knowledge?
I don't think he comes off as incompetent, because he seems to be far more competent for the job, which is very unusual. And in fact, just, when they have the test, and he's the one who sort of pulls the table over, he's really calm and such when in the firing range. That seems to be working really well for them. It's with him more of his performance, but he has to get rid of all of his old identity, and in fact gets rid of all that stuff, and then
baggage.
Well, right off the bat, he's all of his old, not baggage, just he has identity. That's all gone, and that's sort of overall the story stuff. But where do we see how things are changing? Are they changing too fast, too little, in the right direction or in the wrong direction? What would you say that in terms of for Jay?
In the right direction.
And where do we see examples of that in the story?
When he gets the latest facts on what something is, he swaggers in, it should be a certain way. Then he gets the latest fact. Okay, this is about millions of people that are working for us undercover. He adjusts to it.
Okay, so
he also gets hit on by the morgue girl. So that he gets hit on by the morgue girl. So I you know that I think that's a small element. So I'm not sure if that speaks to the future or if that speaks to how things are going. Anyway, but that's another example that I think is squarely in the main character domain.
Well, I mean, I'd say at the beginning, clearly things are changing radically, right? They do a normal car stop, and he's supposed to be, you know, helping this woman deliver a child, which clearly he's never done before, and then it turns out it's this rather extreme child, which then becomes something kind of cute, you know, because it looked like it was very scary, and then suddenly it's, or that may have been mom. So I guess it was mom, but so these things that are really extreme and change the, you know, changing from his normal life, I'd say they get more and more normalized over the course of the story. You know, so he gets more accustomed to it.
So it could be threat then, like the example of the child.
Well, we're not
like a threat.
We're really not looking down at that level yet. We're looking at the
okay.
So that's why I don't want to get, unless you have an example that illustrates how things are changing using that.
Okay.
Okay. Just jumping ahead. All right, and then if we look at the relationship in terms of playing a role, I mean, the whole MIB thing is all about playing a role, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the suit, the, you know, he is number 2. It's not number 1. And
well, and then like playing or like pretending to be the different people's names when they go and like interview people, go to the morgue. There's a lot of that. That felt like playing a role to me.
Absolutely. No, and I think that playing the role is part of the mentoring. And I think that's also where you get the, well, if we're going to be this, you know, we're going to be these kinds of guys. And when we use that little memory Duke, little thing, then, you know, can't we, when we're can't we be kind of nicer and create a much better world for them rather than the way you're doing it? I mean, that's where those conversations are in, because the role they're playing is, okay, we're remaking this person's memory. Well, can't we just give them better memories? You know, you're going to play this role. If we're going to do this job, you know, can't we just be better people, better MIB guys? I think there's a little bit of that banter, you know, in there, maybe in the ability to desire kind of back and forth. So that's one possibility. Does somebody else have an alternative possibility, and with some examples? No? Everybody okay with that?
I mean, I didn't really come in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that my first, you know, my first gut reaction was to go to obtaining for the overall story concern.
Me too. Yeah.
You know, changing one's nature for the relationship. You know, because, you know, again, you know, that you know, the nature of the relationship has to, they have to be, you know, one has to become the other, basically. You know, you know, the Jay's, you know, is kind of, yeah, I mean, it's about his future. This is your future now. But it's not to say there couldn't be something interesting, like, you know, a girl who becomes a Men in Black. And
that's a different story.
Right. And then and then the Tommy Lee Jones character, you know, just on a personal level, you know, the innermost desires are kind of driving him, but that we don't even see that until very late, until like the 3rd or 4th act. So I get, I mean, that was my first instinct, but I do get the argument that on the overall story, it is possible that obtaining is a subset of doing. In this case, like obtaining might be the benchmark, and if doing is concerned, the more I think about it, the more, even though initially I didn't know how it fit, but impulsive responses as a concern for K is makes more and more sense the more I think about it, because especially when you consider the scene where he's talking, I forget who Tommy Lee Jones is talking to. Meanwhile, Will Smith is being thrashed about by the baby, in the car, and he is just so, Tommy Lee Jones is so trained, so conditioned that his lack of responses to things it kind of defines him. Anyway, my call would be one of those is the concern and one of those is the benchmark. And
Yeah.
Okay.
What I like about the lack of response, and this is probably reading too much into this movie, but in a sense, he's kind of dead inside, and I think he sort of realizes that one line gives it away, where he says, Will Smith says it's better to have loved than lost, and Tommy Lee's like, yeah, try it, and it's clearly he's been devastated with that. So I think he goes from kind of being dead inside to having the inner life one more, at the end of the movie.
Right, and I think that is definitely where he's a change character. I mean, that's
yeah.
It's very it's very
it's very slight to say.
And it's one of those things also
But
where, as an influence character, it happens off screen.
Yeah.
The big change happens more or less. You don't see it, and then he's changed. This snuck up on me. But that's kind of a normal thing to do in a change character that's an obstacle character, so you can surprise the audience. As long as you've laid enough, breadcrumbs, then it's fine. So that you can go look back, and go, oh, I see. Here are a couple places where he was hinting at it, or like the looking at the using the computer to spy on his girlfriend or his wife or whatever it was. It's wife, I guess, right? I think it turned out, wasn't it? Anyway, or a high school girlfriend.
I think it was his girlfriend. He was supposed to see her with a bouquet of flowers, and then he saw the alien instead, and it ruined everything.
Right.
I think the newspaper thing says like man awakens from like 30-year coma or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was the cover thing.
So definitely not husband. It was, so it's just the girlfriend. So I agree in terms of which of them. It seems like it could be one or the other. So the real question then comes down to, let's look at the elements underneath to see which is better as a benchmark, and which one's better as the primary concern. So one is, shall we go with the overall story, since there's a lot more of that in the movie? It's almost like the overall story and the relationship are really strong. But let's go with that. Okay, so let's look at, we were choosing doing, and we were also possibly choosing obtaining. Under doing, we've got wisdom, skill, enlightenment, and experience. And under obtaining, we have approach, attitude, self-interest, and morality. And so they're two different kinds of sets, but they're appropriate, but for different reasons. Anybody have when looking at those variations or the issues, any seem to be stronger or less strong to you guys? And where do we see an example? Can we pull examples from the movie? This is for the overall story. So think about the agents, not think about K and J so much, but the MIB agents and MIB and the aliens and the the alien bug, the coroner.
I don't know. I feel like the wisdom quad feels like a little bit more of a stronger pull there, but I don't really have a whole lot of examples. One that just came to mind though was like the Egger's wife character kind of felt like she had like a hunch with the sugar water thing. And it feels like some of the conversations seemed like they could be around theory, hunch, things like that. I don't know. I don't feel like strong enough to like lock anything though.
I mean, the whole MIB. One thing I don't really hear a lot of argument in it. I mean, the approach, attitude, self-interest, and morality. I really don't really hear much discussion of those kinds of issues. Whereas, enlightenment, wisdom, skill, experience, not only being able to decipher what the message means, but also, what MIB is supposed to be. And if you're in there and you've experienced, then you understand how things fit together better. And
you're supposed to be the best of the best of the best.
Right. You develop the right skills and you gain, experience. And if you're in it long enough, you develop enlightenment to understand that, aliens are just aliens. They're not monsters, or not all of them are. Only, some are and some aren't. And kind of like if you think of those two aliens that were talking, the one, the ambassador, and the royalty one. They were very matter of fact, and they were sort of regular Joes, kind of, but they understood the importance of what they had, and but it wasn't about, it didn't feel like, okay, we're trying to, the alien is trying to get it, granted, but most of the conversations were about trying to figure out what this message is, and what is, your Orion and Orion's belt, and
right. Well, those are signposts of understanding and learning. Right. I mean, that's a signpost of understanding there. But anyway, but you're right. Yeah, wisdom, enlightenment.
It just, I mean,
experience.
Again, I don't know. It might be. Well, let's look it over in Jay. Let's see what we have in there. So for how things are changing, we have fact, fantasy, security, and threat. Which is it's a good quad for him, but versus openness, preconception, delay, and choice. And of the kinds of stories this doesn't feel like those kinds of stories. The security and threat and fantasy, certainly all, what's fantasy and what's fact. There seems to be an awful lot of that trying to figure out for Jay, because so many things that seem to be fantasy are facts. Whether something is, is scary and ugly, is it really a threat, or is it, and MIB is part of, security, fighting off threats, and I don't know. Yes, no.
Work, attempt, attract, repel.
Jim, did you have any thoughts?
If any of them I like, wait, am I unmuted? Yeah. If any of them I like the upper right.
Yeah, and again, this is a comedy, so the deeper we go, a lot less material we have to find to illustrate things. Okay, well, let's go with that for now, and if we need to back out, we can do that. So now, if we look at fact, fantasy, security, and threat for our main character? Is there a pair that seems to be stronger than others? You can look in the elements underneath them. Fact and fantasy to me doesn't feel strong, but I'm not really looking at the stuff underneath it. Oh, there's a quad that Jim must be just.
I'm not saying.
It's got proven, unproven, and accurate and non-accurate in one quad.
Very quiet.
Sorry, just teasing you. Yeah, that's not my blind spot. Mine's down here. So, and I'm not trying to avoid it. That's why I need to look and find a material to support it, because I will always gravitate when I don't have any information.
Yeah.
So
I always kind of brain lock on theory and hunch.
Right. Well, we all have a place where we gravitate. That's where it's close to our blind spot. It is either immediately adjacent or very near it. So this has got wisdom, enlightenment, skill, and experience. Now we're looking at the MIB and its ability to save the world effectively in this case, because that's what they're doing. You know, they're doing their job, protecting the world, protecting aliens, protecting humans from alien awareness. Any of these kinds of things. We've got proven, unproven theory, hunch, effect, cause, test, trust, accurate, non-accurate, expectation, determination, result, process, ending, unending. Any of these groups sound good, or you just want something stick in your mind as to where you think the solution to the problem is, what the apparent problem is, or the problem itself? I always say that, where do you think the problem is, even if it's not really the problem element? You know, does it feel like the problem is in wisdom, or it's in something to do with skill, or is it something to do with enlightenment or experience? You know, it's interesting. So there's the scene toward the end where you've got the clock is ticking down, the bug is on the way to a spaceship, and you've got all these experienced guys, and they basically are flummoxed, and the new guy comes in and he doesn't have as much experience, but he sees the things around them with new eyes, right? And so he looks at the mural and says, oh, he recognizes it, it's nearby, and it's like, is this still active? Is this still around? I mean, is this still a viable kind of spaceship? You know, are these spaceships? And they all go, oh yeah, so I mean, that's, I think, that's kind of where this wisdom, skill, experience, enlightenment is. It's in that the ability to recognize those patterns in things that you see every day, and you get this fresh new eyes, and so it's almost like he's inexperienced, but he does have enlightenment. He's able to see those things or gain enlightenment. And it's not a skill thing. He seems to, I mean, he certainly is developing skills. So it definitely feels like we're in the right place, but I'm just not. Not.
Well, okay. When in that grouping, I would gravitate toward the experience quad. You got accurate, non-accurate, expectation, and determination. where well, you know, let me try and think which would be the problem, because of expectations just have to be thrown out the window, and you don't know anything until you've made certain determinations which come from sources that you don't even know exist. But I think accurate and non-accurate is when you see that as kind of being outside the box, part of the symptom I think is when they detect that all the aliens are fleeing. They're either fleeing Manhattan or they're fleeing the Earth, like rats leaving a ship. And and I'm wondering if that falls under the accurate non-accurate definition. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud.
How would it be accurate or non-accurate? I'm not sure I understand.
Because up to that point, okay, so they've been able to keep all the known alien residents under wraps and under a certain amount of control, okay, and so it's like keeping them contained, accurate, all right. But when they start going outside those boundaries, that is proving to be problematic, right?
They're showing that there might be a problem there.
Exactly. That's why I'm kind of thinking that that might be symptomatic, and
right.
And part of the expectation determination thing is the expectations are kind of problematic in that, well, first of all, we're talking about a galaxy. Well, what's a galaxy? Well, one of the aliens, I think it's the dog, or the pit bull, who says, your thinking is flawed because, just you think everything is a particular size, but a galaxy can be, relatively tiny, as well as relatively big. Anyway, he made some.
That's a good observation.
He made some comment about your expectations are wrong, and then the alien himself, the bug, he had expectations for where we'd find it, and he's constantly wrong. So I'm wondering if expectation might be. Would that make expectation the problem, and then accurate the symptom? Not sure. I'm just trying to throw out illustrations and see if they line up.
Let me see.
I do.
Which one? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if accurate and non-accurate are the symptom and response,
then that will make Jim a very happy boy.
Well, yeah, because if you think, well, I mean, proven and unproven for the Will Smith character seems like that would fit. Now he's unproven, but he's steadfast, so he's or maybe he's proven. I don't know. Maybe he's like already proved that he's got skills, and he's got the instincts, and he's got all the stuff that it takes to be one of these guys, and he just has to sit there. He just has to be steadfast. So I mean, I could see that being his elements.
So you were saying expectation being a problem, not a symptom.
Right. I'm kind of leaning towards saying accurate, non-accurate are the symptom response, one or the other.
Since
go ahead.
Since K is the obstacle character, or I'm sorry, influence character, and he changes, wouldn't it be easier just to think of what his arc is and which one of these pairs of elements since it's like so light in terms of objective story like conflict.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, that would just be
he's
to,
headed with all of this. I like where he's going. But
Yeah.
I mean, since one of those pairs will be his arc, right? Like, or where he is at the beginning versus where he is at the end. Wouldn't that be?
yes, that is
obvious?
true. Okay. I'm good with that.
Expectation, determination, ending, unending. Ending, unending.
Well,
If
I mean, if ending unending would be unending would be a problem, would be this, but he would think it's, I'm not sure,
would
he
be a
would see that
problem,
to be
yeah.
problematic because it's like his current place is this job is just going on forever and ever and ever.
Mhm.
And if I can bring it to an end, then I will be a happy person.
that would be a solution. So
Okay.
if his problem is unending, that makes the symptom determination.
Oh, I would.
No, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. No, hang on. No, or would the problem be determination?
Well, let's just do this. If he's
Okay.
so unending, you're saying unending is the symptom, right?
Yeah, because he's aware of it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, worth is great because they even asked Will Smith asked him, "Is it worth it?" at the beginning, and he
Right.
says, "Yeah." And then
Except
by the
worth
end,
actually doesn't line up to be his issue. His issue actually lines up to be what? Value, because the on the
right,
subjective
yeah.
story and the influence character domains, they those levels can break
It's- yeah.
apart. Yeah.
Right. It's where the paradox
Twisted.
shows up. Yeah.
But it's still value versus worth. I mean, that's still thematic conflict,
Right.
so it's still in there. Yeah.
right. He's just on the value side, not on the worth side. So his problem is determination. So that's the source of his personal issues are the conclusion based on circumstantial evidence. Meaning if we're looking back in his backstory and he runs into the alien and makes a decision to change his life forever by joining MIB and completely dropping his former life, that ultimately that no longer seems to be working, as creating anxiety for him. I'm reading it at an exaggerated level. So that when he gets back after the justifications have been torn down, he gets back to a place where he now sees, okay, I can either look at this by looking at the information based on circumstantial evidence, or I can look at it as to the eventual effect of a particular cause. So by looking at what my expectations would be in a life pursuing that versus in a job with MIB versus my girlfriend. And ultimately he goes, I think I should have gone with my girlfriend. I'll make that choice now. I mean, that would be the internal debate going on and the ultimate choice that says, I need you to zap me because I want to end my career and begin my life again, hopefully where I left off. And was that kind of the argument you were thinking about, Jim? In this context, I don't normally think of it this way, but that's why I'm trying to read it. So he would be seeing that these things that are unending are now being problematic for him, and he needs to bring it to a close. Okay, so that's that's why I need to find someone to replace me. That's the argument for him to find someone replacing him. Okay, that works for me very nicely. Well, no, I mean, It's just I never think of the story form that way, but I mean I know that's how it works. I just don't think of it that way. It's not my approach, but it seems to work fine. Surprise, not. Okay, so that means over here in J, his problem is, oh, that's nice, is unproven. And so when he sees things as being unproven, or he is accused of being unproven, then that gives him motivation, but he's never going to really be seeing that. He's going to be seeing something that's saying, you're working outside of the tolerances. You're not smart enough.
This is out of bounds. It's like you just shot that guy's head off. You're under arrest. You know,
but he tries to do is bringing things back into order, within tolerances. Like in his case, in the law, it's law enforcement. It's bring him back within the parameters of the law. So that describes him very well. And Prish will be very happy to notice that he is in facts. No, I think that's great. I mean, Prish was intuiting that that's sort of where he seemed to be coming from, and I think that's it's excellent to recognize that that's where she was thinking, and it's showing up to be the case. I think well, yeah, you're often very intuitive, but not as skilled at specifically pulling things from the example to illustrate what you have intuitively. But I just
that's why I love Dramatica, to latch on to a start of something and then tumble into writing a story, telling a story.
Well, I think your intuition is doing you well. I think it's working well for you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then here we are in the experience pod, which again, I think that's where we look at that one scene where he's recognizing something because he's inexperienced and he's not seeing everything for as everybody else is sort of blind to the things that are around them because their experience is just too familiar, and he's new to it, and so he's like, oh, look, aren't those spaceships? I mean, also I think it's the whole thing about him developing the experiences. This new agent has to develop experiences sufficient to be a full-time agent, especially one that can replace a senior agent like Kay.
And think about it, the whole memory zap thing, the neuralizer, is to wipe out people's experience with whatever bizarre thing just happened. And there's a very important thematic line when Tommy Lee Jones says, look, these people, just want to go about their lives. They're happy as they are. And they don't want to know, they don't want their lives interfered with this stuff. They don't want to know about it. Okay. I forget, I'm not quoting it correctly, obviously, but I think that may speak to part of the, broad thematics of human experience, and it's tied into we need to zap your memory, and that's why I'm wondering if determination, or actually maybe that's where accurate and non-accurate and accurate comes in. If something is out of bounds in terms of human experience.
The neuralizer is exactly what that does. Is it takes these experiences from these people that are well outside their their life experience, and puts it back in bounds. And the whole thing is in fact the reason MIB exists. It's not there. They don't seem to be in this movie. They don't seem to be. There is no right or good or bad aliens per se. It's what their behavior is. What are they doing? are you selling black market guns? It's like, that's a big no-no. It's so, we might just, confiscate all of your stuff. But those are the things that they're recognizing when things are sort of out of bounds. People leaving Manhattan when they don't have the proper paperwork to do that. That suddenly is a trigger, and that's what they see. Or there's a bug going around killing people. That's a problem.
Right.
It's not the whole Orion's belt thing and Orion galaxy is not a really big concern of theirs, as long as it's not a concern for everybody else, right? I mean, it's been popping around on Earth for a long time. Nobody cared until somebody cared. And then there was an assassination, and it's creating a war. Okay, now we're part of that, and we have to deal with it.
Well, so what is the definition of determination that makes it the problem here?
It's conclusion based on circumstantial evidence. So something not necessarily a direct observation, but by sort of indirect observation.
Isn't that they've determined like this is what should happen ahead of time?
Pardon?
I was thinking like, isn't it, like the whole MIB thing, like they've already determined we're just going to take care of everything, we're going to do all this stuff.
Well, I mean, the problem, the antagonist creates the problem because they've determined that they're going to get their hands on the galaxy, right?
Well, I mean, it says anticipate future effects or to take actions to stop or enhance the current effect. So they've already put themselves, they're the police. They're to prevent bad things from happening and correct things, when they are happening. And the evidence, whether there's a specific evidence is really not necessary. It's sort of like if there's sufficient expectation of it, that's enough, because it's creating problems. Remember, the problem is built into this.
Well, okay, so all right,
for them,
so we know that the bugs, we know that the bug species wants that galaxy, that particular galaxy. It's never fully, it's never really explained unless it was, the scene was deleted from the version I saw, but it was never really explained as to why they wanted it, what kind of power it would give them, and why, why the Argalians or whatever they were called, the other ones, wanted it back so badly. There was no real explanation as to what is the significance of this particular galaxy thingy. So you could glean from that there's been this determination, a conclusion based on circumstantial evidence that it's powerful and that will empower our species, and therefore we want to get our hands on it.
I don't even think it needs to be looked at that specifically, because they're really looking at sort of what the MIB sees as a problem and what it's dealing with. So sort of like it's built, this is the justification for the MIB, is that they will take care, anticipate problems and deal with things that are going to be problems for the humans in order to keep things kosher. Not to keep and kosher just means just keep things back within tolerances, not with the norms. Keep it within norms. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's someone selling a gun to an assassin, a potential assassin, or is it someone who is leaving a restricted area? Just like the police, they've got their laws. And this is not a case where the main character, the MIB changes. The story is just being driven this particular way, and they are able to maintain status quo. So it's almost like, even though it's a success story, it feels like that things are able to go back into balance but the MIB certainly doesn't feel like it's a change entity. It just seems like things are being able to take care. Things are been able to be dealt with by bringing them all back within tolerances.
Okay, so the solution occurs when the antagonist is killed and the galaxy thingy is retrieved and presume, you know, and call them, we have it now. And so that's so expectation is a conclusion as to the eventual effect of a particular cause. Conclusion as to expectation, a conclusion as to the eventual. I'm just trying to make sure that expectation works as the solution. I like everything else. I like the fact that, you know, benchmark land is where it was supposed to.
I'm just, you know, it's really interesting. I'm speculating here. So the prediction one expects to find at the end of a path. Well, I mean, you could technically say that's where it does, because we never see them actually, you know, saying, okay, we're backing off and doing all that kind of stuff. We don't really ever see the solution. We do just see there's an expectation that, I don't mean this expectation.
And meeting the expectation of the Archilians. Like if you meet their expectation of delivering the galaxy, it's solved.
That works. That works for me. Yeah, I think that's satisfying. Yeah. Let's look over one thing we haven't talked about is the relationship. So if we look at the relationship, so the issue is desire. Okay. And but it's with effect, cause, accurate, non-accurate. With the problem being cause, and the solution being effect, the symptom is, okay, so we're back to non-accurate, accurate, which works fine in terms of their relationship. Let me do this. I'm going to bring this back to our story engine so we can see all the rest of it in context. And let's come back to relationship in a second. Let's look at the rest of what we have for our overall story. So we've got a catalyst of skill. I think that definitely seems to be that when skill is employed, that drives the story forward faster. And I think most of the times you're thinking of that in terms of imagine K, an inhibitor fact. Oh, well, I think part of that has to do with, you know, what is the Orion? Where's the galaxy? What is Orion's belt? Where is Orion's belt? Those facts are so important, and they seem to like stall forward motion in being able to solve the bigger problem, right? You know, so we have to go and find out. All right, we have to go over to the.
Yeah, it's like going to the morgue. We got to gather facts. Yeah, we got to gather facts, and that slows down the pace of what's going on.
Right, so that works. And yay, benchmark of obtaining.
Yeah,
that's anticipated, but it's nice to see.
Yeah.
And the future for the main character. So the main character, the issue in overall story is experience. So that I think that is good, because that's where, I mean, even from the first scene when they're picking who's going to be the next agent, prospective agent, you know, there's that whole, you know, weird issue with experience versus skill. you know, you've got all this room full of people of a certain type of experience, and then you've got the Will Smith character who's got a wholly separate experience set. And again, when they all seem to be relatively skilled, but the thing that seemed to separate them had a lot more to do with their experience. The military guys are all point and shoot. It's moving, shoot it. Especially if it's foreign looking. And whereas you have Will Smith, who comes from a world where just looking at them is not enough to really determine what's going on. You look at their circumstances and what they're actually doing to take that into consideration. And that's why he ends up shooting the little blonde girl, because her being where she is at the time it is, carrying the books that she's carrying, she's really got to be up to something. So I think, again, that's an experience issue. And then Zed having a comment immediately afterwards, like, you sure you want this guy? You know, it's like, he doesn't seem to have, I mean, yeah, he might seem to be the right, I mean, got those answers right, but this doesn't seem to be kind of the right guy.
Well, I think that also ties into the main character, unique ability of security, critical flaw of wisdom, which is interesting.
Yeah, again, yes, from a security point of view, I think that does. He's very
the one
good, very good at that. Yeah, and with you know, evaluation of one's defenses and protections. Yeah, he seems to be quite experienced and really adept at that. But with wisdom as his critical flaw, it's understanding how to apply knowledge. Where do we see that Jay's effectiveness undermined by that? Well, okay. The conversation with Laurel, for one, he was taking everything far too personally, not professionally. But she's very professional, and he should have realized that. What's another main character moment?
I mean, there's the part where. Oh, go ahead.
I'm thinking of like with the cricket gun, because like Kay has obviously proven himself that he knows what he's talking about, and yeah, you know, it's a little gun, but it packs a punch, but he doesn't like listen to that.
But also the fact that he's blowing everything under the sun out in the middle of public, you know, that shows a lack of wisdom there.
I was gonna say there's the other part, like right before they meet the pug, he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's definitely an alien."
Oh yeah.
No,
exactly. Yeah, those are good examples. Yes. Excellent. And the benchmark of the future. We had talked about that early on before we've chosen anything. Influence character, story points, fixed attitude. And the concern of impulsive responses. We had a long conversation about that. Issue of value. I think that is. So this is. The question is this Kay's the value Kay sees in Jay, or is this Kay's evaluation of himself?
I thought the way I saw it, and I think part of why I got confused a bit, because I think we were looking at worth, but for value feels better to me, because the whole movie, we don't see it, it's sort of internal, but he's basically realigning with his core values. Like at the end, he realigns with his core values, which is why he chooses to leave, and he chooses to change his life in alignment with what he values.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a conflict. It's the thematic conflict is value versus worth, and but you know, he has very strong values. He values the work. He values the mission. But that comes into conflict with, yes, but is it all worth it? Right. So I think as a pair, it works really well.
Well, I didn't mention this either, but like, you know how like when you're thinking of a change character, there's often a bookend. Well, there's definitely a bookend sort of scene with like
Oh.
look up at the stars, and I guess that could kind of relate to value maybe, because it's like he's like we never really look at the stars anymore, you know, and that could maybe be like we don't value. I guess it would be the naivete, or because like they probably know too much about all the stars, and they don't
Right,
just look at them as stars. Oh, they're pretty, you know, or whatever. That
No, I think
maybe
that's
that could be
exactly
part of it, like, and because that
Yeah.
seems to be kind of their mission statement is just, oh, let's take care of all of the craziness of that, so then everybody else can just like value the stars as, oh, they're pretty, you
Well,
know.
you can think of it, he probably recalls back when he was a kid and how or even before all of this, where he saw the stars as being these beautiful, really kind of romanticized version of it, or just looking at it for its aesthetic sake, versus now when he saw it when they're in the desert and he could see all those stars, and after basically only being worried about what's coming from them, not really looking at space as this canopy of white points of light, and he says, "Oh yeah, he's recognizing sort of how far he's come from that, as his partner has gotten too old to do his job." So yeah, I think that you're right. I think that's a really good bookend for sort of tipping the hand as to where his mindset is. Okay, your confidence as
Yeah.
case unique ability. I mean, that couldn't be better.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the challenge is; he is completely confident.
But it's interesting. Critical flaw of knowledge is almost like he has there's an immense amount of knowledge that he is not giving away, that he is very coy with. He knows all this stuff, but he's not,
He doesn't share it.
he doesn't share it, right? And it's like, in terms of his impact.
The seatbelt. It's like there's a bit of the knowledge that he withholds,
Mm-hmm.
which is really easy to say, put on the seatbelt, otherwise you could get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or because this car goes very fast and upside down.
Mm-hmm.
That a little bit of knowledge, and it would have, given him even more cred as to being a good partner and mentor. See, in fact, I think that that's probably one of the things that undermines him as a partner, his effectiveness as a partner, which of course is kind of okay, since that's really not what he wants to be. But so makes the splitting a little easier that he is that way. And then his innermost desires is clearly, that's the thing that is getting more and more desirous of
Right.
different life
Yeah.
as a benchmark.
That
Okay.
works. Yeah.
Then let's pop over the relationship. We haven't talked about that a whole lot. We talked a bit about playing a role. The issue of desire. So looking motivation towards something better. The central thematic topic of the relationship as it concerns the motivation towards something better.
Would this be like the "is it worth it" kind of
Yeah.
thing? I'm wondering, because that's where I see the most of the relationships stuff is.
I think also when he first starts talking to Will Smith, before he's actually on the MIB payroll, isn't he talking about when he's sort of kind of trying to sell it, before he neuralizes him, how this is a much bigger thing, and it's a better, you can do what you're doing, but for a much more people and much bigger stakes. Doesn't he say something like that in that conversation? When he's, he's pulling out the information from what the guy said before he jumped off the roof. He's interviewing him essentially.
Yeah, he might. I don't remember that.
I remember there was something there, but I don't recall it verbatim. But
Maybe I've
yeah,
been neuralized. I don't know.
well, or I'm just filling in blanks, which is also very possible. But that,
yeah, but it's it all say part of the conflict is, I mean, Jay wants certain things, and it's like, no, it's not gonna. He desires for things to be a particular way. Like, don't keep zapping that girl's brain. You're gonna give her cancer. And it's like, no, it's not about what you want. Well, why can't it be about what I want? So
why
there's
can't
that.
it be about something better? Yeah, can't you give her a better memory?
Yeah. So I think there is, and did anyone actually ask, Will Smith if he wanted this job? They just kind of thrust him into it. Do you even want to do this? There's no discussion of that. And although that doesn't become a real contentious issue, because he goes along with it because he fits in. He actually does kind of fit in a way really well. But there's still this issue of, do you really want this? I don't know. Maybe that isn't quite so strong, but
no, I don't think that is. But I do think that sort of I think looking at it in terms of motivation to make things better, which would be a reason for being trained, going through the efforts of being trained. And I think that works, really well. And I think it's key on that zapping and what memories you're giving, because that's definitely the two partners are arguing about this. And if it's a desire versus ability, you got Kay on the let's just do what we can do, and like leave it at that. And Jay is like, no, let's make it happier, give them pleasant memories, like make it better for them. So definitely thematically, sort of, again, the issue is where the theme stuff comes in. I think that is very clear that that's a sort of a point of contention between the two, or a difference in approach between the two of them. All right, we go to the catalyst is ability.
Actually, we tend to talk about cause and effect as a problem solution.
Oh, okay.
We talked about non-accurate and accurate, but cause and effect, how does that work?
All right, so it says the underlying cause of the difficulties between J and K as it concerns the specific circumstances that lead to an effect.
The relationship is driven by a cause of him finding a replacement, right? So that maybe leads to putting Will Smith or Jay into more precarious situations.
Okay, very pragmatic. Very pragmatic way of looking at it. I need something to replace someone.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean that's what gives it its immediacy, and it's not arbitrary or capricious.
Right.
And because it seems to be so pragmatic, also it.
I think Chris is frozen again.
No.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, now you're back. Okay.
All right. Oh no, that says I'm unstable.
Yeah. I've been told that a few times.
So when that, when he's seemed to be sort of cold or just sort of matter of fact with Jay, that pragmatic aspect of it is sort of a natural source of conflict because it's sort of built into it. Perhaps that's what it is. Or I mean, I don't seem to have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm much more interested in hearing what you have to say.
I don't know about that. Once you hear me say it, I was just saying I agree with the cause, because I think cause can also, I don't know, yeah, antecedent. The synonym antecedent is the last one on the bottom, and that it's like things that an event that existed before, kind of, and then proceeds from there. So that made me think of the real beginning of the relationship is that Kay, I'm getting tired, so I think I might be mixing. No, Kay wanted to find a replacement and then met Jay.
Right. Remember, because he is in the.
And it's a little manipulating. It's like a little like, haha, I didn't tell you.
Well,
it is
yeah,
manipulating. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the opening sequence, his existing partner, who is actually a little older than him, what happened? He just said, I'm getting too old for this kind of thing, and I want to retire. I forgot what happened, because
I don't even think they had that conversation. It was evident that he was too old and he should be retired.
right.
I think he just retired him because it didn't need that conversation.
Okay. Yeah. I
Just
don't
apol-
remember. Did they say?
He apologized because he was fumbling with trying to shoot the getting his gun out, and he wasn't able to do it. And he apologized, and that's when Kay neuralized him. That's it. Neuralized.
Okay. Right. So yeah. Okay. So that sort of is the inciting incident of the relationship.
Right. It created the gap, the hole for a relationship that person needed to be put into that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why when Kay sees Will Smith as a potential replacement, there's a hole there already, as opposed to and he's kind of got the kind of, maybe he sees himself in it a bit.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
unstable. He's unstable. Happens to me.
And that creature happens to be what, a mosquito?
Yeah.
I'm not very good at chasing those kinds of things. All right. But yeah, good. I like the antecedent thing as well.
And the other word there's agent. So yeah, that's right next to it.
Well, of course, it's an agent. Missing
somehow it fits. Seems destined to fit.
I was kind of wondering where the kind of bug killing, like of the cockroaches or the smaller bugs, where that would fit. Would that be like non-accurate, accurate? Or I'm trying to like place what, because that seems to be like a running theme that popped up like several times, and it kind of comes in at the end being like a really sore spot.
Yeah, could it be a solution?
It's intolerable to Vincent D'Onofrio, certainly.
Right. It's also, I think, the opening sequence is a setup for what happens in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
How, I mean, not only thematically, where bugs are just, they're just bugs, and you just wipe them off your windscreen or windshield, or and so here you're thinking of bugs as being very insignificant, and then this ginormous bug comes down, and pretty much does whatever it wants to humans. So I think there's just a bit of a sort of payback irony, for that's mirroring the opening sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think because of the dragonfly kind of looks very alien, and it's hard to tell. It's also hard to tell initially what scale it is, so it was interesting. It's especially if you've seen Dune. But I think it's more of that's more thematic than anything. I think killing the bugs was just a way to rile up the alien, because they're treated like, all of those bugs are family. They're all kind. They didn't explain any of that, I think, and more than anything else, I think it was Will Smith's sort of attitude about it. His oh, did I step on your auntie? That plus the fact you noticed that the alien said that it didn't really care. It seemed like, okay, well, maybe even if I die, it's okay, because there's millions of us. That's what he said. Sort of said that as he turned and started coming down the stairwell. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get you, even if it means I'm gonna get killed because you're being a jerk. I'm saying that politely. All right. Well, let's just look at these signposts because we have a little time. Not much, but let's just see what we've got. Understanding, learning, doing, obtaining. That feels pretty damn good. So especially with obtaining being at the very end, where the focus is on, he's got we need to get a hold of the, we need to get the galaxy back from the bug. That's the whole thing. From once the bug gets the galaxy till the end, it's all about who has the galaxy. And the understanding has a lot to do with just what is this world, and we're exposed to all sorts of kinds of things. Also with the understanding of who these creatures are, what is the galaxy, where is it,
and think about it. The antagonist puts on, the understanding is concerns appreciating the meaning of something. He puts on the human's skin, and and he has to start to understand how to move, and he's having to suddenly understand what's going on, what environment he's in, and how to deal with it. So I don't think that applies to him too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, as the overall story, it would equally apply to him.
And then gathering information is just inside the headquarters, and there's all this information up on the screens, and
learning what the galaxy thing is, and who is Orion, and where is Orion, and what's Orion's belt, and which Orion's belt. And then when you kind of figure that out, okay, now we got to go get it. And then, the things you need, all the doing things as an MIB agent, and what everybody's doing to get off the planet, and then chase it down. Main character, the present, how things are changing, the past, future. I don't know.
Well, okay, so the present. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, present.
He's just in the moment. He is just he's just in the moment, and then suddenly his world changes, right? I don't know how the past would be signpost 3, but certainly
yeah, I'm not certain. Certainly you get a little bit of the past in it's just a blip of a moment, but now, as I say, when he's recognizes that saucer, but I don't think that's actually signpost 4, and it's not brain main character either.
I mean, the signpost. Look, the signpost 4 is the final scene. He's the girl is his partner now, and he's got a future as an agent, and he's cool with it, you know. So I could see the final signpost being that, you know, that scene from in the car, and that establishes, you know, he is embarked upon his future now. He is going to be a Men in Black from now on, and so yeah, the signpost 3 of the past. That's the only thing I can't quite illustrate. That may just be missing.
Yeah, the only thing I see is that one thing about him recognizing the spaceship, but that just doesn't fit. And that's
I
just,
mean, there's a very, very small thing, and it's more of a joke, and I don't think it's even really a character thing much. But he does talk about like, oh, that was my teacher in 3rd grade or whatever. But again, that's so small.
and that was also early on. That was more.
Yeah, that might be Act 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was when he's, you know, learning. That was in the learning part in the overall story.
Yeah, so you know, hey, it just may not be in there. You know, I mean, you know, the story movie doesn't have to hit every single point.
Right. So they seem to fit nicely. Did anybody have any questions about any of the story points that we've explored or haven't explored?
I have a quick question about the past, just in general. How far back does it have to be the past?
An hour ago, yesterday,
Okay.
prehistoric, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's all relative.
Okay. Because the only thing I was thinking of with the past for main character through line was when he first met the doctor, she was flirting with him, and then he goes back and he totally misinterprets the situation, maybe because he's stuck in the past experience with her. That's the only thing I can come up with for the past for that.
That's not bad. So in other words, he's basically interacting with her based on his past experience, not based on where she is right this moment and the fact that she'd been neuralized and all that. Okay.
And then that causes a whole bunch of problems, because then everything kind of goes forward from there.
Yeah, I can see that. That's actually a pretty good use of it. Yeah, I'd buy that. Anything else? Jim, did you have anything to say?
Nope.
Wow.
Completely quiet.
Looking
Okay.
on the plot of Men in Black 1997, and I don't see anything about a past. I thought there might be some little snippet, but I don't see anything.
Oh, you're looking at the plot summary?
Right, just in case, there might be a little...
really detailed on this one. The IMDb page?
No, I was looking at the Wikipedia,
Oh, okay.
because sometimes they're a little less. So I thought that unless it has something to do with Kay in the
But I think in terms
stomach.
of it, being a main character moment as opposed to the overall story, I think
Maybe he has to use his training from the past, going about it the way he used to do it when he was the cop in the street.
Here's the thing. I think it was left out. I don't know if it's left out on purpose, but I think it was left out instinctually because I think in most cases, in a movie that may be a little bit more character driven instead of this is very comical and full of gags, right? Visual side gags, and so that's where the emphasis was. If there was more emphasis on the character, you would expect that late in the in the second half of the second act or second half of the middle act that that something would have cropped up for the main character from this past. Like you said, there was that teacher thing, but but something might have more substantially come in to challenge his current, position and make him question whether or not he wants to continue, or whether he wants to go back to his previous life. Like for instance, like a past girlfriend, or a former, like the chief of police from the NYPD, or some other partner or friend, somebody. You would almost expect that something would have cropped up from his past to make him question what he's doing right now and what trajectory he's on. But the emphasis is not on character. The emphasis is on the sight gags, and the comical stuff, the fun stuff, whimsical stuff. It's Barry Sonnenfeld. But two is they didn't want to steal thunder away from Tommy Lee Jones's trajectory, which he is the one going back to recapture his past. So that energy was transferred over to the K character. Okay. So
Oh, maybe it was a swap.
Maybe, yeah, something like that. Yeah, they since they were putting the emphasis on Tom, on Kay's, girlfriend, former girlfriend, and his past life. They did not want to deal with that in Jay's life. But I think normally they would have, but they didn't this time, just because of the way, the elements came together.
Yeah, I think it, again, being as lightweighted as it is, it holds together as a story form really well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we found enough examples in so many, virtually all of the different story points, that's without too much struggle, that I think that that it works nicely. And if they didn't get an example in every single one, that's hardly unusual, especially in a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually more in a comedy that they have far more gaps or just huge missing pieces altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions before we call it a night? All right. Well then,
yep.
Thank you all. This was actually really, really enjoyable. Lots of fun.
Yes.
Oh, you see, there was a comment that. Oh, wow. Sorry, Lloyd. I didn't see your comment a while ago. I apologize. Lloyd had said, my vote is that it's a changing of the guard movie. Kay goes from not trusting that his replacement, Jay, is ready, i.e. not being able to let it go, to trusting that Jay can handle things, thus being able to let go. Yep, I think you're completely right.
I mean, we were real close to trust and test. I mean, it's right in that general area. So, trust and test obviously that played a part, but we were, so it was like right next to where we landed on the story form.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. Absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you next month. Same time, same location.
Enjoy. All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
Thank y'all.